PW1 first claimed that there was no bounty, that he did not commit the murder for money. He did it under duress and magically changed his story. They realized what he was saying was cap, probably when the SSI removed the allegation that Diddy actually paid the bounty.
The internet's in chaos right now. People are arguing non-stop over what these new files mean. Some fans are convinced this might finally be Durk's big break, while others are side-eyeing the paperwork, not ready to celebrate just yet. And let me tell you, after personally going through all 11 pages, line by line, paragraph by paragraph, this situation is way deeper and way more complex than what's trending on your feed right now. Before diving into every argument Durk's legal team is pushing and what it could mean for his future, let's get something straight. I'm not here to kill the vibe or throw shade just to be negative. I'm breaking it down because it's super important to look at these files with clear.
More intriguing than what you're probably seeing in your Twitter timeline or Instagram stories. Now, before we dive deep into the absolute trenches of these court documents, before we break down every single argument that Durk's legal team is making, and before we analyze what
clear eyes and real expectations. What's written in these documents is one thing, but what people want them to say is a whole different story. Here's the part you gotta understand. A lot of voices in the hip-hop commentary world seriously believe Lil Durk is gonna walk free. One of them is Seti Nash, who posted this brand new paperwork straight to his Instagram story and feed. Seti's been saying from day one that Durk's beating the case, and I've gotta give him his fair credit. His take deserves to be heard loud and clear. But after we break down what Seti Nash and others are saying, we're gonna go page by page through the real details. I'm gonna show exactly why I'm not.
I've said quite a few times on this channel that I personally think, in my personal, honest, own, personal, just me, not trying to get sued opinion, is that Lil Durk is perhaps cooked. He is perhaps overly cooked. He's perhaps grilled, charbroiled perhaps. But realistically, a lot of people think that I'm capping. A lot of people think I've got the wrong opinion.
Totally sold that this is the smoking gun people are hyping it up to be. The legal arguments here are interesting for sure, but calling this a case-closing bombshell might be going too far. Still, don't get it twisted. This is no small deal. This new paperwork and the points Durk's team are bringing could really shift the energy around his case. This might just be the moment where everything starts to move in his favor. This is where the real story starts heating up. This is where the legal strategy becomes sharp and crystal clear. So here's the plan. I'm about to walk you through this whole document step by step, breaking down every key argument, explaining the legal lingo.
Because I think it's absolutely crucial that we approach these court documents with clear eyes, with realistic expectations, and with a genuine understanding of what they actually say versus what people might want them to say. And here's the thing that's really important to understand as we go through this analysis together. A lot of people, including some pretty prominent voices in the hip-hop commentary space, genuinely believe that Lil Durk is
and translating exactly what Durk's lawyers are saying compared to what the government's been pushing. I've read this full 11-page document multiple times, no exaggeration. I took detailed notes on every major claim, every slick legal move, and every single piece of strategy hiding between the lines.
If, and that's a big, fat, enormous 400-pounder if, the government doesn't clap back in a powerful way. But if the government does clap back in a way that I think they might clap back, it will be over for Lil Durk and he will be fully cooked like a rotisserie chicken.
And I'm gonna lay it all out in plain language. No confusing lawyer talk, just straight up facts that show what's really going down here. But before diving deep into the court filings, let's rewind to what Seti Nash said about all this in his post. He broke it down with precision, pointing out crucial parts of this paperwork that reveal exactly what Durk's defense team is fighting for. And trust me, what Seti highlighted is explosive. The main witness, listed as PW1 in the legal docs, is at the center of all this chaos. According to Durk's legal team, this witness couldn't keep his story straight. First, he claimed there was no bounty, saying he didn't do anything for money and only acted under pressure. But then, as Seti pointed out, the story suddenly flips. Out of nowhere, there's talk about payouts, bounties, and cash moving around. That kind of switch up doesn't just raise eyebrows, it changes the whole tone of the case. And it doesn't stop there. The documents keep dropping bomb after bomb, showing more contradictions in the witness's testimony. One minute he's saying one thing, the next minute he's spinning another version. And now the money part gets even murkier. These aren't small details. This stuff could seriously shake the foundation of the prosecution's argument. Durk's lawyers are basically saying the government's main witness got caught lying, plain and simple, and instead of owning up to it, the government quietly cleaned up the mess by removing certain allegations between the first and second versions of the indictment. That's huge. That kind of move screams damage control and raises big questions about how solid this whole case really is. We're talking about witness credibility being on the line here. If the key witness isn't reliable, then what happens to the rest of the case? The entire prosecution could be standing on shaky ground, and that's exactly what Durk's team wants people to see. After putting all this out there, Seti said he's stepping back to let other voices in the community dig deeper into it. And that's major respect. That's the kind of alley-oop that keeps this story alive, letting different perspectives shine. And honestly, this case deserves that kind of deep dive, because the details here could completely change how everyone views what's really happening behind those courtroom doors. Now, this is where things get real spicy. The defense is firing shots straight at the heart of the government's case, breaking down what they say are the two key things prosecutors need to prove for a murder-for-hire charge to actually stick. First off, what was the actual bounty? What kind of payment or reward was supposedly being offered? What was the hiring part of this supposed setup? If this was a job listing on LinkedIn, what would the salary and benefits even be? And second, what were the specific directions? What exactly was said? And what were the alleged orders Durk supposedly gave? In that same job analogy, what was the job description? What were the exact duties being assigned? Durk's legal team says the government hasn't provided any of that with real clarity. They're claiming the feds dropped the ball big time by not spelling out those crucial details. Now, the prosecution clapped back with their own long-winded response, listing a bunch of random details that, according to Durk's lawyers, don't even connect to the real issue. And then they wrapped it all up with a blanket claim that the discovery materials fill in the missing pieces without ever showing how. Basically, they're saying, trust us, we've got what we need. But the defense isn't buying it for a second. The back and forth between both sides has already been heated across earlier filings. The government's been holding firm on their stance. They claim it's obvious what happened, that they've got multiple witnesses backing it up, and that they don't need Durk's iCloud data specifically because they already have plenty of messages. Stuff he allegedly sent to or received from others. They're saying, we've got enough to tell the story, no need for more proof, but Durk's camp is calling that cap. They're flat out saying the government's claim that everything necessary is already in discovery is straight up false. They say it's incomplete, it's vague, and it's unfair. And honestly, whether the judge buys that argument or not is still up in the air. But one thing's for sure, the tension in this courtroom is serious. Here's where it gets even deeper. The defense is suggesting they're being blocked from seeing the full evidence being used against Durk before trial, which they say violates fairness at its core. According to the filing, the court should see through the smokescreen and stop taking the government's word at face value that Durk, real name Mr. Banks, knows exactly what he's being accused of. They're warning that if the court doesn't step in, this vague indictment basically turns into a blank check for the prosecution, letting them twist the case however they want, using facts that were never shown to the grand jury. That could leave Durk blindsided when trial time hits, especially as these so-called cooperating witnesses keep changing their stories. The defense isn't holding back. They're accusing the key witness of constantly flipping their narrative, and they're saying the government keeps shifting the storyline right along with them. But here's where it gets tricky. The narrator admits that part of this argument might be a stretch. Some fans are jumping to conclusions before seeing how the court will interpret it. Now here's a big point that's driving everyone wild. The indictment never clearly lays out where, when, or why this alleged bounty was placed. And Durk's lawyers are saying that's crucial for a murder-for-hire charge. You can't accuse someone of putting up a hit if you can't even say when or where it happened. The defense points out two big flaws in the indictment. First, they say the document fails to describe the supposed bounty with proper detail. No timeline, no location, no context. It's all vague, like someone erased the most important lines. According to a footnote in the filing, the indictment only says that sometime between November 6, 2020, the death of King Von, and August 22, 2022, the death of Sia Robinson, Durk, referred to by his real name, Mr. Banks, supposedly used clear and coded language with others, promising a bounty, cash reward, or lucrative music opportunities to anyone who helped in killing Taekwon Bowman. Now here's why this part has the internet buzzing. Durk's lawyers are basically saying, you're accusing him of putting out a bounty, but you can't tell us when, where, or even how this supposedly went down. They're calling the government out for being way too vague, tossing around big claims without concrete proof. The defense is putting pressure on every word, pointing out how the prosecutors are keeping things blurry on purpose. And when you mix in the fact that the main witness's story keeps flipping, it makes the whole case look shaky. So yeah, this section of the filing isn't just legal talk, it's a full-on chess match. Every sentence here has the potential to flip the momentum, and both sides know it. One false move, and everything could turn upside down. If things don't go the way Durk's team expects, this whole move could seriously backfire on them, and fast. Only time will tell how it plays out. But one thing's for sure, this is a massive turning point in the case. The prosecution's next move will shape everything from here on out, and everyone's watching to see what happens next. When we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, Durk's situation is sitting right at a crossroads. It's a genuine make or break moment that could swing either way. Depending on how the prosecutors answer these bold challenges, his defense just dropped. What we're really seeing is a legal face-off, a tactical power move that puts pressure on the feds to either bring hard evidence or rethink their whole murder-for-hire narrative. Durk's lawyers have drawn their line in the sand, calling out what they describe as fatal vagueness in the indictment. They're saying the government hasn't made it clear what bounty was supposedly offered or what exact orders Durk allegedly gave to anyone else. That's a major accusation, and if the defense is right, it could seriously shake the case apart. Now, on the other side, you've got the optimists, people like Seti Nash and others who believe Durk's gonna walk free. They're looking at this new filing as proof that the government's case is full of holes. They see this as validation, especially since the main witness's story keeps flipping and the prosecution quietly removed parts of their own allegations between indictments. That's huge. And let's be real, those are fair points. The fact that the witness allegedly first said there was no bounty, then switched up and started talking about money and offers is a serious red flag. Add in that quiet edit from the government, and yeah, it raises big questions about how solid their story really is. But here's the part that people can't ignore. Federal prosecutors don't go after major artists like Lil Durk unless they believe they've got serious evidence to back it up. They've got time, resources, and investigators who dig deep before they ever step into court. So even though this filing shines a light on what the defense calls gaps in the case, the real test is coming. Can the feds fill those gaps when they clap back? If the government comes back with real receipts, solid dates, messages, witness statements, and proof of when and how that alleged bounty was offered, then Durk's situation could take a sharp turn for the worse. That kind of evidence would put real pressure on the defense and make this filing look more like a temporary win than a real breakthrough. But if the prosecution's response turns out weak, if they can't deliver specifics and keep relying on fuzzy timelines and vague claims, then this could be a massive victory for Durk's legal team. We're talking about the kind of win that could lead to major charges being dropped, or the case losing serious weight before it even hits trial. Right now, we're sitting in the calm before the storm. This is the waiting game, the moment that decides whether the government doubles down with evidence or starts slipping under the weight of its own claims. One thing's guaranteed, whatever happens next is going to change everything for Lil Durk's future. This story is far from over, and the next few moves are about to tell us everything. Make sure you don't miss a second of it. Hit that like, smash that subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you catch every update as soon as it drops. Things are about to get wild.